First time I entered the White House, it was February, and I was so nervous. Oh my gosh. And I get there, and you have to go through security, and Secret Service just sort of stares at you, and it's very intimidating. And of course, I was really nervous, so I put my coffee into the tray, so then that fell everywhere. It just spilled everywhere, and they're like, oh, stupid girl. And then I walked up, and you have to walk up these intimidating big marble steps, and the doors slowly open, and you're just sort of like, what am I doing here? This is insane. The first time Barack Obama teased me was actually on a treadmill in a hotel gym in Colorado, and I had just run really fast and was proud of myself and was sweating a lot and was cooling down, so walking at that point. And the Secret Service agent gets on the treadmill next to me and says, I thought you'd be faster than that. And I was like, whoo, excuse me? And so I turned to say something, and it's not a Secret Service agent. It's actually President Obama. And he just has that twinkle in his eye because he's like, oh, gotcha. And I didn't say anything clever at all. I just froze, and my jaw was on the floor, and then I ran from the room. It was very embarrassing. That's how it goes. Oh, I bumped into the president when I least expected it, more than once, for sure. We traveled in a tight bubble, but one of the more embarrassing times was when I was in a hotel and we were done for the night, and all of the staff had been in the hotel bar drinking, and I ran up to get a sweatshirt, and the Secret Service agents were all in the hallway, and I just wanted to entertain them because I felt badly for them. They're just bored. They're just standing there trying to be very serious all the time. And so I showed this one Secret Service agent the new yoga pose I could suddenly do, crow pose, where you put your knees on your elbows and you kind of go upside down. So I was, of course, doing that. And then the Secret Service agent was like, he's right behind you. And there he was. I don't know if it was the first time I cried, but the first time I remember crying at the White House is when the Newtown shooting occurred. We were all at work. It was the middle of the day, and we realized what was happening. And then, of course, we learned the details later, but it was one of those monumental days, life-changing days where innocence was kind of lost across the board. So I got the job on Craigslist. I had no qualifications for it. I hadn't grown up in a political world. I hadn't been traveling with the president before that. And so you kind of get thrown into this bubble, and it's sink or swim. And I was traveling and running through this hallway, and then this really nice guy, who I don't know who he was looking back, but some guy is like, oh, I think you need to be in here. And so I go in with my big backpack and my gear, and I go in there, and it's just a setup for lunch. And I'm like, I don't think I'm supposed to be in here. Like, it's just a bunch of sandwiches, but it looks really nice. And luckily, the president's body man was like, hey, are you having lunch with the president? And I was like, no. It was my second trip. And I was like, no, I'm not having lunch with the president. He was like, so why are you in here? And I was like, I don't know. Some guy told me to come in here. So I think I sort of got hazed. I got tricked a little bit in the beginning. So I bolted from the room, luckily, before the president got there. The first time President Obama impressed me the most was the first time I was in the same room with him. He speaks so eloquently. He pays attention to everyone in the room. He's extremely thoughtful. He really takes his time before opening his mouth, and he's a great listener. And so to see that up close and to share the same airspace as him and to realize he's just as good in person as he is when we see him on television, I was impressed. Oh boy. So during the campaign in 2016, I was traveling with President Obama, who was giving speeches all over the country on behalf of Hillary Clinton. And I really wasn't paying much attention to Trump. We would, every once in a while, you'd hear a soundbite. But I do remember I was on Air Force One, And someone put on the news, we were coming back from somewhere, and I was like, you know what, I just want to listen to this guy. And I listened to a speech, and I was so freaked out. And so that really the first time I heard him speak at length, I realized I would never be able to work for him. And then he won the election, and I was definitely not going to work for him, except my good friend called me when Trump came in and met with President Obama in the Oval Office. I stayed home because I just didn't want to be anywhere near Trump. I didn't want to deal with reality. And when that night my friend called and he was like, you have to stay. You're a writer. You can see it up close and you can report because all of us have to leave. All of the Obama staffers had to leave. So I decided to stay for 2 months, which were the 2 hardest months, where every day I kind of went in with this sense of dread, and I had a hard time getting out of bed in the morning. And then it was heartbreaking to walk through these gates and be so embarrassed when for the last 5 years I'd been so thrilled and so honored to walk through those very same gates.